Well, hey there, friends. Welcome to another exciting edition of The Link. I'm pretty fired up that you've joined us today. Today, we're just going to briefly talk about what God is doing among Gen Z. Now, when you think about Generation Z and their spiritual engagement, what comes to mind? Maybe cynicism, maybe skepticism, maybe you think of deconstruction. But what if I told you that's an old narrative? Recently, the Barna Research Group, a Christian research agency out of California, released a report that said that over the last 4 years, faith in Christ nationally has increased by 12%. Now, any demographer will tell you that that is statistically significant number. At our lowest point in America, there was about 54% of Americans that said that they had a personal relationship with Jesus. That was back in 2021. But now that number is up to 66%. What's fueling that number? Well, you might be surprised to discover that it's Gen Z, that there is a faith renewal, dare I say even a revival, that's happening across the country. And maybe that's the best spiritual news that's not being reported. Barna Research Group for the past 12 years has been doing an in-depth study of the beliefs, the cultural values, and the attitudes of Gen Z in a 3-part report called the Gen Z Report. Our team, who, as you know, if you're a member of Woodside or a friend who follows the link, is very much interested in reaching young adults with the gospel. This includes university students, but also non-university students, certainly with a special focus of those who are 13 to about 25. So these would be your middle schoolers, high schoolers, and those who are launching out into that next phase of adulthood. And as we've been thinking about spiritual engagement with that group, we've been very interested in some broad, sweeping studies on what they believe, what their obstacles to faith may be, their attitudes about the various hot-button issues of our day. This report has been one of several that has been really, really informative to us. But more than just the numbers, what I've been looking for in particular are disruptive statistics. What I mean by that is I've been looking at maybe data that goes against the prevailing narrative of what we believe. That takes me back to the spiritual renewal revival that we're experiencing. Stories matter. Narratives matter. They either work to encourage us or discourage us. And I think the church broadly, and maybe even you and I individually, have had a pretty skeptical view of Gen Z, maybe even a discouraging view of Gen Z. Maybe we've thought that they are immoral, godless, disinterested in what the gospel has to say. But those of us who are parents, who are raising this generation in our own homes, very much are deeply praying for revival. We're praying for spiritual awakening, that it would start in our own living rooms and that there would be a ripple effect across a generation and across our nation. And this is why I'm so excited. This is why we've decided to spend several weeks taking a deep dive into some of the counter narratives that will hopefully encourage you, and not only encourage you, but equip you. Equip you along the lines of how do we take advantage of this moment of spiritual openness? How do we discuss the hot button topic of gender and sexuality? What are they actually looking for from a church? And as we think about that, how do we make sure that our church or churches are homes for the next generation, for our sons and daughters and our grandchildren as well? These are all important. Now, I want to speak to Gen Z as well. If you are someone who fits that age group, that demographic, I just want to say the church needs you. We need you. There are some huge issues on the horizon, from AI to politics to sexuality and so much more. And the church needs your wisdom, your giftedness, your insight if we're going to navigate these things well. I pray that you would know that the call of Christ for your generation, for you in particular, locally and even globally, concerning the mission field, is greater now than it's ever been before. There is a place for you. And we are working hard to make sure we create spaces for this generation to process through the big questions of your head and the longings of your heart. Some of you have heard me talk about our commitment to engaging university students in Ann Arbor and East Lansing, on the campuses of Oakland University and Wayne State University locally. These are just some of the focus areas that I think are vital to the next chapter of our church's story of engagement. So let me just give you one practical bit of advice in this time together, and then I'm going to encourage you to tune in for this groundbreaking series, because I really think you're going to learn a lot as a parent and as somebody who hopefully wants to reach the next generation. And here's the bit of advice that I want to give you, and that is that Gen Z is hungry for spiritual engagement. They are hungry for those who will authentically, relationally, and patiently share with them reasons to believe that Jesus is Lord. You know, it's been said that this generation spells love T-I-M-E. That's right, time. And the real question that's before us is, will we invest the time with our children, with our grandchildren, with young adults, university students? Will we invest the time to process through the tough questions that they have, to be able to show why the gospel is both true and good and also beautiful, and to be able to give a reason why the Christian community is worth being a part of? There are so many false narratives. There are obstacles that are against us. Social media certainly hasn't been a friend to the church in this age where every mistake is viral. But I will say that there's hope. There's hope not only in the stats, but hopefully you find hope in the fact that the power of the gospel has always prevailed in every generation. And so I'm excited. I want to encourage you to make sure that you start with prayer. Start with just making a prayer list. Man, just think about if every member of our church had a prayer list of 2 or 3 Gen Zers that we were all praying for in our own family, in our own community. What would that look like? What if we just begin to petition God for our sons, our daughters, nieces, nephews, young people that we're connected to, their friends? What if we begin to pray for our kids' teammates? What if we begin to pray for this generation with intentionality, that God would open up gospel doors, that we would be a place of safety for them, and that there would be a move of the Spirit that would bring help, hope, and healing? I think if we did that, God would honor it and that he would send revival. And so I'm going to encourage you to do that today. Also, in the postscript for this edition of The Link, there is a link for you to click on, for you to find out more about the Gen Z report. And I do want to encourage you, stick with us over the next several weeks as we take a deep dive as a team, as a church, as a group of individuals who are passionate about reaching this generation with the gospel. I think it's going to transform your home, transform our church, and transform your heart. Well, God bless you. I can't wait till we're together again for the next edition of The Link.